The microwave hummed its familiar tune as Mark pulled out his leftover lasagna. The break room at Anderson Construction Co-job site had that comfortable Wednesday energy. Workers scattered around two rectangular tables pushed together, the kind of casual comfort that comes from sharing thousands of lunches over the years. Man, Teresa outdid herself with these enchiladas, Carlos said, steam rising from his container. "Want to try some, Dave?" Dave reached across with a plastic fork, maintaining the easy banter that made lunch breaks feel like mini vacations from the constant pressure of deadlines and specs. The autumn sun streamed through the dusty window, catching particles in the air. They danced like tiny performers in the shaft of light. Just then, everything shifted. It wasn't dramatic. No door slamming or dramatic entrance. No, Mr. Peterson, the site owner, simply appeared in the doorway, filling it with his presence more than his actual frame. He didn't need to be physically large. His arrival expanded to fill the available space like flooding a room with nitrogen, his presence displacing every molecule of oxygen. Silent. Suffocating. The room contracted around them. Conversations died mid-sentence. Bodies shifted imperceptibly. Straighter backs, slightly tucked chins, hands moving closer to food containers, as if protecting them instinctively. The comfortable break room atmosphere crystallized into something far more formal, more performative. "Well, afternoon, everyone," Peterson's voice bellowed, carrying that particular tone of forced joviality, somehow making it worse than if he'd just been stern. "Enjoying your lunch break?" The question wasn't really a question, it was a subtle reminder. This break, like everything else, was not given and not guaranteed. His smile remained fixed as his eyes swept the room, taking inventory of the faces, the postures, the scattered evidence of relaxation that now seemed, almost magically, to turn into guilt. Before anyone could muster response beyond nervous nods, Jim, the foreman, practically leapt from his chair. His half-eaten sandwich lay forgotten as he moved to intercept Peterson, his body language a testament to careful mediation between the two sides. "Mr. Peterson, I was hopping to catch ya. Would you like to see the progress we've made on the East Wing Foundation? The reinforcement work you suggested really made a difference. It was a practice dance, a routine Jim had performed countless times. His suggestion offered everyone an exit. Workers could keep their break, Peterson could maintain his authority, and Jim could buffer the uncomfortable intersection of these two worlds, albeit with a toll on himself. Peterson's smile shifted slightly, acknowledging his step in this familiar choreography. "Lead the way, Jim, but not before turning and advising everyone to enjoy your lunch break." His eyes made one more sweep of the room, pleasant but penetrating. "Can't work on an empty stomach, after all." The words hung in the air like a benevolent threat as Peterson turned to follow Jim. Their voices faded down the hallway, discussing load-bearing calculations and timeline projections, a version of the power dance dressed in technical terms. Slowly, molecule by molecule, the atmosphere in the break room began to decompress. Oxygen started working its way back into the vacuum left behind. Conversations resumed, though quieter and more reserved now. Carlos looked down at his enchiladas, their steam now just a memory. Dave's fork hung suspended halfway to his mouth, the borrowed bite of food now forgotten. Mark stared at his lasagna, thinking about how Teresa would appreciate this story when he got home. She'd understand the weight of those moments, how authority could fill a room like invisible smoke, how power spoke loudest in casual phrases, how survival in the modern workplace meant mastering the art of appearing appropriately grateful for things you've earned. The microwave hummed once again, reheating someone's now cold lunch. The dance and dust motes continued their performance in the sunlight, indifferent to the human drama they'd witnessed. In break rooms across the world, similar scenes played out, small moments that taught big lessons about who we are, what we're worth, and how we navigate the complex web of power that shapes our daily lives. Later that afternoon, as the crew returned to their tasks, the incident would seem almost dreamlike. Just a brief ripple in the routine of their day, but it wasn't a dream, and its effects lingered in subtle, insidious ways. In how they checked their watches during the next break a little too many times, in the now slightly hurried pace of their meals, in the shaved moments they gave back that seemed to settle for the guilt of stopping the production line in the first place, simply to rest. It was in the shared glances that acknowledged their common understanding of how the world really worked. Jim returned 30 minutes later alone, his sandwich long forgotten. He didn't need to say anything. The look on his face said it all. They all knew he'd spent the time walking Peterson through various project aspects, carefully highlighting their productivity while downplaying any delays, protecting his crew through the careful application of information and deference. As the sun began its descent and the workday drew to a close, the break room sat empty, containing only echoes of the day's power play. The tables, pushed together, stood as the base for their friendships, their camaraderie, their food, and for the microwave, that silent witness to the eternal dance between authority and autonomy, between the power to give and the right to take, between the simple human desire to rest and the complex social structures that turned even that basic need into a transaction. The lesson wasn't written on any wall or in any book, but it was carved into the experience of every worker who'd sat in that room. Power doesn't always announce itself with grand gestures or explicit rules. Sometimes it simply walks through a door, smiles, and reminds you that even your lunch break tells a story about who you are in the grand scheme of things. Tomorrow they'll do it all over again, because that's what survival looks like in the modern world. Understanding the unwritten rules. Playing your part in the performance and finding your small spaces of freedom within the larger constraints of power. The microwave continued its endless cycles of reheating, indifferent to the complex dance of human hierarchy that's played out before it day after day, in the eternal theater of the break room of whatever project they were on at the time.